Chapter 12, Simon's Revelation. The following day, Grace couldn't shake the conversation with Michael from her mind. She replayed his words over and over, trying to sort through her emotions. The day's tasks passed in a blur, her mind distracted and her heart heavy with the weight of indecision. As much as she tried to focus, thoughts of Michael and Simon tangled together, leaving her feeling more conflicted than ever. It wasn't until late afternoon, during a quiet moment in her office, that the knock on her door jolted her from her reverie. She looked up to see Simon standing in the doorway, his usual calm demeanor replaced with something more tense, more guarded. "Hey, Grace," Simon greeted her, his voice lacking its usual warmth. "Do you have a minute?" "Of course, come in," Grace replied, trying to shake off her unease. She gestured for him to sit down, but Simon remained standing, his posture stiff, his eyes unreadable. He took a deep breath before speaking, his tone cautious. "I ran into Michael earlier today." Grace's heart sank. She hadn't yet figured out how to bring up Michael's unexpected reappearance, much less his confession. "Oh," she said, keeping her voice neutral, though inside, her thoughts raced. "Yeah," Simon continued, his eyes searching hers for answers. "He mentioned that you two had a long talk yesterday. He seemed pretty familiar with you." Grace nodded slowly, unsure of how much Simon already knew. "We've known each other for a long time. He's an old friend." "An old friend who seems pretty interested in being more than that," Simon said, a hint of something, jealousy, maybe, creeping into his voice. Grace winced at his words, realizing that this was a conversation she hadn't been ready to have. "Michael and I were close once, a long time ago. But life took us in different directions." Simon remained silent for a moment, his eyes narrowing slightly as he processed her words. "And now he's back, trying to pick up where you left off?" Grace opened her mouth to respond, but the words caught in her throat. She didn't know how to explain the complicated mix of emotions she felt, how she was torn between the comfort of the past and the excitement of the present. Sensing her hesitation, Simon's expression softened, though the tension between them remained. "Grace, I'm not trying to make this harder for you. I need to know where I stand. Where we stand." Grace felt a pang of guilt. She knew Simon deserved honesty, but the truth was, she wasn't sure of anything anymore. "Simon, I care about you. I really do. But Michael's reappearance has brought up a lot of old feelings, and I'm just trying to sort through them." Simon nodded, his jaw tightening as he absorbed her words. "I understand that. But I need to know if I'm just a distraction, if I'm someone you're turning to because the past didn't work out, or if I'm someone you actually see a future with." The vulnerability in his voice, the uncertainty that she had never seen in him before, tugged at Grace's heart. She hadn't meant to hurt him, hadn't meant to make him feel like a second choice. "Simon, you're not a distraction," Grace said firmly, standing up to face him. "I see a future with you, one that's real, one that's built on the connection we've been building. But I also need to figure out what Michael's presence in my life means. I don't want to rush into anything without being sure." Simon looked at her, his expression torn between hope and hurt. "And what if you decide that Michael's the one you want?" Grace's chest tightened at the thought. She hadn't considered that possibility fully, but now, faced with the potential of losing Simon, she realized just how much he had come to mean to her. "I don't know, Simon," she admitted, her voice thick with emotion. "But I promise you this, I'm not going to play games with either of you. I need time to figure things out, and I hope you can understand that." Simon studied her for a long moment, his eyes searching hers for something, reassurance, maybe, or certainty. Then, with a resigned sigh, he nodded. "I understand, Grace. But I'm not going to wait forever." His words hung in the air like a challenge, a reminder that love was as much about timing as it was about feelings. Grace felt her heart ache at the thought of losing him, but she knew that rushing into a decision without clarity would only hurt them both in the long run. "I know," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Simon reached out and took her hand, his touch both familiar and grounding. "I care about you, Grace. A lot. But I need to know that you're all in, that you're not holding back because of what might have been with him. Grace squeezed his hand, wishing she could give him the certainty he craved. I care about you too, Simon. I just need a little more time to sort through this. He nodded again, his grip on her hand tightening for a brief moment before he let go. Take the time you need, Grace. But just know that I'm not going to compete for your heart. You have to choose. With that, Simon turned and left the office, leaving Grace standing there, feeling more conflicted than ever. She watched him go, her heart torn between the man who represented her future and the one who had come back from her past. And for the first time in a long while, Grace felt truly lost, unsure of which path to take. Click follow for the next chapters.